my name is Leanne Howard. I'm from Lighthouse Christian School in Madison, Tennessee. The title of my illustrated story is The Prince's Poison Cup by R.C. Sproul. Once upon a time, there was a great king. He was called the King of Life because he had the power to make anything, even living things like plants, animals, and people. The king made a beautiful park filled with trees, streams, lakes, and meadows. Each day, the king came to the park to visit with his subjects, the people he had made. In the center of the park, the king placed a fountain. Up from the fountain bubbled beautiful water that looked cool and sweet. But the king told his people, "You may drink from all the streams in the park, but you may not drink from the fountain. The water in the fountain will harm you." At first, the king's subjects enjoyed spending time with him so much that they didn't go near the fountain. But after a while, they began to get curious. One day, a stranger in a long black cloak appeared in the park. People didn't know it, but the stranger was the king's arch enemy. He told the people that the water in the fountain wasn't bad at all. He said if they tried it, the water would do wonderful things for them. It would make them as great as the king. By now, the people were very curious, so they decided to try it. The stranger filled the cup with the water from the fountain, and they drank it. But a terrible thing happened. When the people drank the water, their hearts turned to stone. After that, they no longer felt any love for their king. They stopped coming to the park to be with him. They moved to a desert far away and built themselves a city. They called it the City of Man. The King of Life was angry that the people had disobeyed him. He knew that he was justified in destroying their city. But the king still loved his people and felt sorry for them. The king was wise, so he had a plan to help them. He went to his son, who was the prince of the kingdom, and said to him, "I want you to help heal our people." The king gave the prince a golden cup and told him to go to the city of man. The king said that in the center of the city, the prince would find another fountain. This fountain was filled with terrible poison. The king told the prince to use the golden cup to drink a whole cupful of the poison from the fountain. He said if the prince would do that, his subjects would be healed and would come back to the park. The prince loved his father and his people, so he determined to fulfill the mission. He started on a journey to the city of man. When the prince arrived in the city, he saw there was a terrible place. It was unfriendly and dark. The prince loved his father, but couldn't help wondering if there was another way for his subjects to be healed. The prince approached the fountain, and without saying a word, took out the golden cup and held it out to the man. With a cruel smile, the man filled the prince's cup with the water from the fountain. The prince looked at the smelly poison in his cup and was disgusted by it. He knew it would kill him. He put his lips to the edge of the cup and began to drink. The poison burned his throat, but he continued to swallow. After the poison was gone, he closed his eyes and died. He fell to the pavement beside the fountain. The man in the dark cloak laughed with glee, for he thought that he had killed the king's son. Just then, someone entered the plaza. This person wore a cloak that was brilliant white. The man in the dark cloak stopped laughing and began to scream, "Run for your lives! The King of Life has come!" The king knelt down and touched his son. The prince opened his eyes. He was alive again. The king had brought the prince back from death. At that moment, the murky liquid in the fountain changed. It became a beautiful, clear, sweet water. The water filled the fountain and glittered in the sunlight. The prince stood up and filled the cup with the water from the fountain. He held the cup out to the people and said, "If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink." Slowly, some people began to approach the fountain. They had been repulsed by the fountain and its horrible poison, but the prince and the water he offered looked glorious, and they could not stay back. Many people came to drink from the cup, and all those who came praised the king and the prince for healing them. They saw that the terrible poison the prince had drunk was wonderful medicine for them. Although it had tasted awful to the prince and had caused him to die, it had healed their stony hearts. After that, the people joyfully began to visit the park once more, where they took great delight in walking with the king and the prince, who had restored them to life again. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have